Hi everyone, so I've tried out the new version of the reworked Rathma set tonight and I want to share my experience with this a little bit. So I have played both the Bone Spirit and the Army of the Dead versions of this build, and before it was mostly focused around Army of the Dead and we had this Bone Spirit RGK setup, and now, well, Army of the Dead is completely dead. So they removed the cooldown resets from the 2-piece bonus. It's only 0.25 seconds instead of 1 second now. They removed the multipliers from the braces. They lowered the 6-piece multipliers to only half the value. And on top of that, they did the one expected change, the Rathma shield. But that one also got completely butchered. So Rathma shield has a 60-second cooldown now. So this is essentially a completely dead passive for pretty much every build now. So even those that were not using Army of the Dead every 2 seconds will not use our passive anymore for sure. So kind of like a sad story. I think something like a 10-second cooldown would have been totally adequate, but here we are. And there were also some changes to Bone Spirit, especially the Defiler quizzes that made it so that the damage would stack up over time, up to 30 seconds. It's now capped at 5. So that is actually a pretty good change, because it would avoid this kind of like off-screening from 10 screens away, trying to hit something, trying to kill the Rift Guardian. So that is actually a pretty good change, so the damage is more consistent while still allowing you to get a bit more out of it if you have good positioning. So the best solo pushing setup for Rathma right now is actually not Army of the Dead anymore, it's Bone Spirit now, and this is what people are using. They clear up to I think 140 or so, and it seems actually kind of decent in terms of like the power level. The problem is the playstyle. So the playstyle right now revolves around the invincibility combo of Land of the Dead, Invigoration, and Captain Crimson 3-piece. With 100% resource cost reduction, you take absolutely 0 damage, you even keep your squirts, and this is essentially what you use to survive. So we went from the perma invincibility with Rathma shield to perma invincibility with Land of the Dead, and overall this is just really missing the mark here, I believe. Not only that, but the playstyle of the Bone Spirits is also kind of clunky, because to actually achieve this perma invincibility you need to have Obsidian Ring, and you have to have numlocked or macroed command skeletons, and you need to constantly mouse over enemies so that the command skeletons will activate to give you those Obsidian Ring procs. So this is really bad, especially in situations where you want to move from pull to pull, or target an enemy, or jump in an Oculus Ring. You always have to try to make sure that basically at those like half-second intervals or something, when command skeletons would proc, you need to mouse over something, or else you're gonna run out of obsidian procs and your cooldown will not reset in time. In fact, it's actually extremely close, so in some cases you do get the reset, and in other cases you have like a slight downtime if you have perfect cooldown reduction. But overall it works actually pretty fine in terms of being able to shoot. I don't want to talk too much about this pushing build here right now. I'm gonna have another dedicated video for that, including some more suggestions of how to fix the set. Right now I believe it needs a lot of work, especially the 2-piece bonus needs to be changed. I think the overall behavior of Bone Spirits can be adjusted to make it more fun, and clearly Army of the Dead has to be lifted up by many tiers, because that nerf just was completely over the top. So right now Army of the Dead is dead on arrival. Bone Spirit kind of works. It might actually be kind of a Rift Guardian killer in case of a heavy Firebird's nerf, and well, it also works pretty well in solo speed farming. So this is what I've done here. It is actually a very fun playstyle when you try to farm with this. It's not exactly the same as like a new Firebird Wizard, for example, but that one will almost guaranteed get toned down. And it's pretty comparable to some of the like A-tier builds or so for farming. So I was doing 105s, 3 minutes with almost no Paragon, and well, that was actually going pretty well. It's a bit squishy, so you have to be a bit careful, but generally it actually works pretty well and you have a decent amount of cooldown. I was trying various setups here. I was trying with this Land of the Dead Invigoration combo. I was trying without it actually, with Frozen Lands, in case that Invigoration combo gets nerfed, which might actually be quite likely now that it's all over the place. I was even using some setups without Land of the Dead entirely, using Army of the Dead to group enemies with Death Valley. And that actually also kind of worked, but of course the cooldown is extremely long now, so it doesn't really contribute to DPS. It's just there to give you a little bit of better area damage value and a bit of better AoE value. but it was kind of fine to just cast Bone Spirits with just the Devourer and the Obsidian Ring procs from the Command Skeleton to reset the cooldown, and that actually seemed to work rather well as long as you keep the runs below 3 minutes. So this is what I wanted to show here. There's at least one purpose of Rathmas now, outside of like a kind of clunky pushing build. As I mentioned, I will have some more suggestions of how to fix this. Before that, I really want to make sure I have the full picture, so I'm gonna revisit this and then talk more about it in the future. But for now, this is what we have. This speed farming build, I felt actually was kind of fun. It could be improved a lot in terms of power level and playstyle. So right now this only really works when you're doing it very well, but it does work. It's not terrible, but overall the Rathma set was really hyped at the start, and now everything is kind of like really messy and bad, especially with Army of the Dead. And at least that has to be changed in some way to make it kind of like a second option. So I believe that Blizzard should try to have both of those skills as like their distinct playstyles, or even allow some combos, at least as kind of like a supporting skill, as I did here with Army of the Dead as a grouping skill, or even as like speed farming build, as a pushing build. So the way it was before was pretty cool because you had both builds. Army of the Dead was stronger by quite a margin, but there was still a possibility. And right now Army of the Dead is just completely out. So that has to be brought up kind of like to the same level. And I believe it would be amazing to have a basically new set for a Necromancer that actually has 2 or even 3 completely distinct playstyles. And that is definitely what we should be aiming at. Overall, apart from the power level of the builds, I'm also not really happy with the playstyles for both of them. The only really good part I found is those speedruns here. So this is what I want to share here for now. Hope you liked my little video, and I'll see you guys next time.